hospital chaplain by me, the Rev Dave Mock. I'm the Church of England chaplain at Wythenshawe Hospital. I work in the Manchester Hospitals Foundation, Manchester University's Hospital Foundation Trust, which is the largest trust in Europe. There's 25,000 employees within the trust. There's 10 hospitals ranging from 4 of the biggest hospitals in Manchester to small day hospitals and things. You may have come under the care of one of these hospitals. If you had a serious heart condition and they didn't quite know what to do with you in the local hospitals here, they would send you to Wythenshawe because it has the Northwest Specialty Centre for heart care. They're absolutely amazing, the surgeons there. Similarly with lung problems and things, it's the Northwest Lung Specialty area. And thirdly, if you're terribly burned, you'll be most likely airlifted to Wythenshawe, where they have, it is the most chilled out place in the burns unit. They're just all really lovely and kind and hardworking. But these are these amazing specialist units that are there to serve not just the greater population of Greater Manchester, but a wider area as well. I work within Wythenshawe Hospital, but at any given time I could be ordered to go work in one of the other 4 hospitals, Trafford, North Manchester General Hospital, or Oxford Road, which is the Royal Children's Hospital, the Dental Hospital, the Eye Hospital, the Women's Hospital, the MRI, and all of that. But I work predominantly at the Wythenshawe, and currently I seem to be the lead chaplain there because they give me lots of work to do to tell other people to do as well. Okay, so that's my setting of where I work. I worked 23 years in parish ministry in Surrey and then here in Cheshire, which are, funny enough, 2 very similar sort of places. And most recently I worked in Barnton and Whittington. So for the last almost 3 years, I've been an acute hospital chaplain in Manchester. Now, an acute hospital chaplain is someone who deals with a hospital that deals with pretty much anything that comes over the threshold, okay? An acute hospital is the kind of hospital you see on any BBC drama about hospitals, okay? It's not a mental health hospital, though we do have some mental health situations that we deal with. It's not a specialist hospitals. They're acute hospitals that deal with all sorts of ranges of trying to work out what's wrong with you and how you can get better. At the moment, I'm married to Ruth, the vicar. I'm very pleased to be here with. Okay. The phrase chaplain, I really can't read this from because I'm old, so I have to keep looking up here. Chaplain is this is one of the stories you tell with a because you just tell it over and over. The term comes from Middle English, from the Old French chaplain or something like that. From medieval Latin capellanus, originally denoting the custodian of the cloak of St. Martin, from capella, originally meaning little cloak. And the story is this: St. Martin had toured. St. Martin and his buddies were riding into town. They were soldiers, and a man comes up to them and says, "Oh, I need money. I have nothing. I'm naked." And St. Martin had nothing but his cloak to give. Now, being a good Christian, he cut his cloak in half and gave one half to the beggar and kept the other half for himself. And the man went off with that to stay warm. And then in his dreams, Jesus came to St. Martin and said, "By doing this for this man, you've done this for me. Go and continue to do this." If you've ever been to St. Martin's in the Fields in London, there is a lamppost just outside with, you can see St. Martin on his horse there, cutting his cloak in half, the little man who's come up to him. Okay? So St. Martin is the patron saint of chaplains, and that's kind of who we think is the one who models what we do. Now, in the trust, I work at the chaplaincy and spiritual care service. Sounds very dramatic, doesn't it? Very exciting. I'm kind of proud of this because my department, we've sort of are being scrutinized because we don't do things the MFT way. That's the trust, MFT. And so we have all these managers telling us that we need action plans and strategies and strategy statements and vision statements. So I sat with a bunch of chaplains who all sit around with about 500 words. What do you do? Well, we deal with the psychoimmunal thing. And I just said, we're a person-centered, compassionate service meeting the spiritual, emotional, and religious needs of patients, family, and staff in a timely and professional way. That's now our vision statement. Okay? Got me some brownie points, that's for sure. But that's what we do. That says we're professionals. We're not just people who get dragged in off the street. We're trained people. We're trained listeners. We're people who can listen with empathy. We're people who can have spiritual answers. We can talk to non-religious people, religious people, across all spectrums of our particular faith, and sometimes across it. I've had to go see Muslim families sometimes. Some of my Muslim colleagues have gone to minister families while we waited for someone to come across. I remember once there was a Roman Catholic dying in recess, and they called for a priest, and the on-call priest wasn't answering their phone, and the daughter of this person was becoming really, really stressed out. And so I said to the nurse on the phone, well, just give it 10 more minutes and then ring me again, and if they want, I will come down, if that's acceptable. 10 minutes later, the nurse rang and said, you'll do, she said, any holy person will do. I said to the nurse, we still need to wait for him to get here. So, but I went down, I prayed. I made it very clear I wasn't a Roman Catholic priest because I look like one and I get called father all right because I wear a black shirt. And but I didn't want the family to think that they were getting Roman Catholic care because that wouldn't have been fair to them. So I said, no, I'm the Church of England chaplain. All I can really do for you in a liturgical sense is to pray for your mother. She says, that's fine. I prayed for her and her mother died a couple of minutes later. Fortunately, Sister Bernie, who's a nun who's worked in the hospital since I think St. Martin was doing his thing, who's beloved by everybody, then went down, because she came on the shift, she went down and took care of her family. We worked together to make the thing happen. Never will I say that person's Roman Catholic, I will not come to them. The question is it acceptable for me to come and minister to them? And I will. Okay. This is going to take you through kind of what our staff look like a bit. This was at a farewell party for someone in that picture, and someone snapped a picture of us all standing around looking like a bunch of bored teenagers. And I wanted that to be our internet page photo, and our senior manager for quality assurance said, no, I don't think that will be our photo. But that kind of captures how we are. We just kind of hang out together. We have quite good relationships with each other. Like any group of working people, not all of us get on with each other. We try to understand each other best we can. But we'll always support each other and treat each other in a professional way. So, as you can see, I do wear my dog collar when I'm on the wards, but I don't wear it when I'm in the office, mostly because my shirt's a bit tight, so I'm kind of fat. Okay. But the guy in the middle there is Nick. He's our manager, and very supportive of all of us. And so there's mostly Roman Catholics and Protestant chaplains in that picture there. But I asked, this is our morning huddle at 8:15 in the morning. You're in trouble if you don't turn up for it. It used to be at 9 o'clock, but they discovered it was better to get everybody there for 8:15 because people were turning up at 8:45 to work. Anyway, so this is our gang. You can see there's Muslim chaplains. The guy on the bottom left-hand corner, that's my line manager, Sadiq, who's a very wise man. You'll see a range of chaplains who are all based in different hospitals. You see me down here in the corner. This woman here is our secretary, Carol, who's lovely. And each of those people teach me about faith. I've got Pentecostal Charismatic Assembly of God ministers. MC, the guy next to Sadiq, is a bishop in an apostolic church somewhere. Nick is a Baptist. Robert, whose picture is there, the very high Anglo-Catholic Anglican priest. Yitzhak, KY, he's a rabbi. He works in my office. He's absolutely amazing. And we learn from one another. The most beautiful thing in our chaplaincy is the fact that I can be fired for getting into a religious argument with a colleague. Do you really believe that as Muslims? Really? Now, I might come home and say maybe, but we're not there to argue with each other and engage with each other. We're there to serve the people in the hospital. So we actually have some quite amazing conversations, because I might say, so why do you do this? Why are you fasting today? Why do you have a partition between the men and the women in the chapel when you're having Juma prayers? What does Juma mean? Ruth and I are going to Jordan during Ramadan. Are we going to offend people because I can't go all day without drinking water because I have kidney stones? Sadiq was lovely. He tutored me about Ramadan in a Muslim country. He said, one, you're not going to Saudi Arabia. You're going to Jordan. Don't walk down the middle of a market with a sandwich in your mouth going, this is delicious. Everybody will know you're not a Muslim. So they won't be offended that you're not observing Ramadan because you're not a Muslim. But we did notice that you always ate inside during daylight hours. All the outside seating was always put up and sort of off limits, because restaurants recognize, yes, people will eat during this time, but don't be out there flaunting. If you need to drink, if you're a Muslim and you need to drink for medical reasons, you do, because Islam allows you to do that. So again, we tutor each other, and what's really lovely is that one of my imam colleagues when I was telling a story, I think it was about Jonah, and he goes, we have a story about Jonah as well. So we were doing a little teaching, and he says, where do you find these Bible stories and stuff? So I introduced him to Bible Gateway online. I said, you can read some of these Old Testament stories and see how they often become similar to the Quran. So we have a really good supportive relationship. So I went to the thing on Monday, this seminar, partly because there was free food, partly because I wanted to know more about what they're doing, but also they're having, my Roman Catholic colleague and I were both there, having 2 dog collars in the audience, also told other hospital staff that we support our colleagues, so that we're there for them and stuff, and they do the same thing for us. I did this for a presentation for some managers a while ago. Christian chaplaincy, story told in numbers. Numbers aren't everything, but I just thought this might give you the scope and scale of what we do. Across the trust, this is primarily across the 4 main hospitals. In the 3 months up to the end of December last year, we made 4,772 visits or attempted them. Now, can I just say to you, I made 400 of those visits. Okay? I'm a bit of a blue-eyed boy, but there you go. Okay, visits lasting 45 minutes or more in the last 3 months, 176. 45-minute visit is a long, long visit, trust me. The average visit is about 15 minutes. You've run out of stuff to say usually, and the other person has, unless they're in crisis and they really need some sorting something out. Palliative care, which is the care symptom control for people who have limited life, not necessarily dying, but people who may just need a bit of extra support when they're in hospital because their situation is so acute, particularly with pain. They talk about bowels and laxatives an awful lot, that sort of stuff. We sit in the multidisciplinary teams with them, so we sit and talk about patients and offer spiritual care advice. They might ask us to go see someone. It's my favorite meeting of the week, to be honest with you, because I really like working with that team. Across our team, we spend 312 hours a year sitting in meetings talking about the medical care of patients. Okay, very little spiritual care stuff, mostly listening and offering, and me usually asking questions because I don't understand what they're saying most of the time. Okay, so that gives you a picture of just kind of the activities that we do. My day can be full of visiting people. It can be doing a funeral for a stillborn child and their family. It could be making a presentation to managers. It could be leading a communion service, delivering communions. That's what I do if I work on a Sunday. I work Monday to Friday. One night, probably every fortnight, I'm on call to all 4 hospitals in the trust. So some people here have seen me have my phone ring and rush out, and I could have to drive to North Manchester. I have 75 minutes to get there. That's our agreed service time to get to any point. I will do probably every 9 weeks a weekend on call, which means any call that comes in for us, I'm the one who has to go answer, plus I'll work that Sunday as well. And so we do the kind of stuff you think that we do, and we do an awful lot of sitting and talking with people, a lot of teaching each other, and just reacting to what's going on. Most people think that chaplains mostly deal with dead people or dying people. Actually, that's a fraction, really, of what I do. I saw one person today who's actively dying out of 4 patients that I saw. The other 3 were just ordinary range of acute problems where they just wanted to talk to someone. Okay, within the context of all those numbers, what we do is we assess and seek to meet the spiritual, emotional, and religious needs within a patient's overall treatment. We're part of a treatment team. So the nurse who comes in and changes your saline bag as part of your team, the consultant who sweeps in talks really, really fast with 5 12-year-olds behind them, and then sweep back in. Yeah, I love that people start going, yeah. It feels like that, doesn't it? I once went to see a patient who had died, and his family, we've been praying for him for ages, and his family said, it's going to take us a while to get in. Can someone go up and pray with him? Just so we know that he's been prayed for. So this was at the end of the pandemic, and so I'm putting on all my gear, and there's 2 junior doctors standing there, and they look at each other, and one of them looks at me, and he says, you know he's dead, don't you? And I said, yeah, that's why I'm here. And then I wanted to say, but didn't, because I'm a polite person. And I'm now about to do more for him than you're going to when you go in there. Because his family need the comfort of knowing that I had gone into the ring and prayed for him. Because the nurses will tell them whether I've been there or not. Okay? Love what the doctors do and all of that. But sometimes people don't quite get that I'm still serving the family, because as long as he is in that bed, they're still under everybody's care. Now, I have to say most medical staff, almost all of them, in fact, it'll often be a consultant who rings and says, could you come up, please, because we're gathering the family, we're going to withdraw treatment or something. It would really help the family if you were there. A lot of people really respect the role that we play in that. I think a lot of people don't quite understand fully what we do. He's not breathing anymore, so your job must be done. But no, my job is still serving the families and caring until everybody's out in the hospital. Now, how many people here have been in hospital? Okay, how many people, was it an easy thing for you? No worries, no problems, in, out, you're okay? Okay, you can be, by the way. How many people found it a bit of a disorientating experience? How many people found it a traumatic experience being in hospital? Okay, how many people were afraid while you were in hospital? How many people wanted somebody you could talk to who wasn't going to be there for just 5 minutes and then leave? Okay, how many people wanted to talk about things not just about your religion, but about stuff that mattered to you? Okay, that's how my day is spent. You can talk to someone. I had a patient who basically had voices in her head telling her that she was an evil, terrible, terrible person, and that's why she had the heart condition that she had. So she said to me, is that the voice of God? I said, no. She said, well, I know it's not. It's Satan. And I said, well, Satan is the father of all lies. So whenever he's talking to you, he's lying. You're an ill person. Your heart doesn't work properly. No one's doing this to you. So don't add to the stress of that. And she goes, are you sure? I said, yeah, absolutely. Okay. That's a 15-minute conversation with some profoundly ill. But I'm the person who can sit, the nurses didn't know what to do there. I can sit down and talk to her. And she can accept my authority because I'm wearing a dog collar. So yes, you can talk to me. And that's great. I have spoken to people. The most common thing that people will say to me, we'll come up to this in a minute, is, why is this happening to me? People in profound pain, some palliative care patients I've met who are at the end of their lives, and they know they're at the end of their lives. I know, and they're in excruciating pain and discomfort, and they will commonly say, it's illegal to do this to a dog, so why is it being allowed to happen to me? Okay? I can't sit there and go, well, I can't talk about that. You say, okay, let's talk about that. I think you're right, it is unfair. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how you feel. Be honest and just get this stuff out. And often in those situations, I want to talk to them about what can we do to kind of distract you from the pain. Let's make sure that the medicos can get you more pain relief and let go of your discomfort. Some people want to know if they're to blame for it. Some people want to know whether a mistake has been made, whether this is truly what's happening to them. Some people aren't really that bothered. Some people are terribly afraid. Some people become very philosophical. But wherever you're doing, all of these emotions come out. People are afraid, they're anxious, they're relieved. A number of patients I go and they go, oh, they didn't find anything in my scans, I'm going home tomorrow. And they're really excited about that. And they want you to be really excited as well. And if they're particularly religious people, they want you to praise God with them about that. That's a real great privilege. All of these are privileges to be in. People feel abandoned. Nobody from my family's come to see me, which often isn't true, so they're often confused. But there are people who are alone and no one comes to see them. So nursing staff may say, could you come up and see them? Because they need to talk to someone. Nursing staff do as much chaplaincy as we do, by the way. Palliative care nurses, by the way, do a huge amount of chaplaincy. And I keep telling them that. They don't believe me. But they are the ones who have more of time as well to sit down and talk to people like we do as they do their work. Does that list of things look familiar to those of you who have been in hospital? Yeah. Or experienced medical things where you're slightly worried about what's going on, particularly when you haven't arranged it? Okay, we'll try to move at a quicker pace. Everybody's spiritual and emotional and religious needs are different. There's no one set template for people, though I know roughly what the menu is going to be like if I go see a patient. By the way, I'll let you in on a little secret, and this is true of most of the chaplains I work with. It still takes me a bit of time to get out of the office to go see people because I'm nervous. And that I'm not sure they really want to see me, even though they've asked to see me. There's that real kind of imposter syndrome, that sense of, what if I don't have the answers, whatever. But once you get out there, you start motoring around and you just get into the mode. You face everything as it comes up. And these are the really common needs that people have. Now I have what are called the Jesus ladies. Now what I mean by that is you go see someone, it's very clear from the records because we can see the records of patients, because we're part of their treatment team, and we also make notes about what we've talked about and things that we exercise certain amounts of confidentiality. There's some things they want their doctors to know, and there's other things they just want me to know. And I don't include those things in my notes. But the Jesus ladies are the ones who say, I'm ready. I'll go tonight. I've had a long life, a good life, full of great stuff. I know my Savior's waiting for me. I'm not afraid, and they genuinely aren't. They're not bluffing it out. They're genuinely, I just want to close my eyes and I'm really happy to go. So a lot of people, actually, to be honest with you, who reach a point where they say, I just want to close my eyes and not wake up. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of going through this. I know I'm kind of at the end of it. I'm sad about it and all of that, but I'm just ready to go. Some people go really fighting, but a lot of people, they recognize where it is. And we don't have a lot of training in dying, by the way. No one kind of does a seminar about it every year for you. And it frightens us. Woody Allen, I use this joke a lot, by the way, because it works therapeutically. Woody Allen once said, I'm not afraid of dying, I just don't want to be there when it happens. And I've said that to people and they go, exactly. I said, exactly. I don't want to be, I'm not afraid of this, I just don't want to be there when it happens. What's going to happen to me? I don't know. A patient asked me once, am I going to be really agitated at the end like my mother? Am I going to be really distraught? I don't want to be like that. I don't want to put my children there. So she's giving this extra anxiety on top of all the stuff that's already going on. So my job is often to say, I don't know, but let's just draw back a minute and let's focus on now. Some people feel the need to talk to someone. I'm afraid. Can you just talk with me about it? Now, I went to see a patient. She's not religious. A lot of patients I see aren't religious. And to be honest with you, a lot of conversations I have aren't religious. Let's put this down because I'm actually going to drink this now. There you go. My biscuit's still in there. Okay, so I went to see her. One of the palliative care nurses said she comes here. She's quite worried about dying. Now, her situation was that she was quite elderly. They weren't going to operate on the problem that she had. They're trying one last antibiotic, and if it didn't work, she was going to die. She knew that, the doctors knew that. So she was very anxiety-filled about this. And so I sat down, I introduced myself. I always say, if I'm summoned, why am I here? Because it allows them to set the agenda of what I'm doing. I don't come and say, I brought Jesus with me. It's why am I here? Why do you want to talk to me? And she said, well, they said that you're someone who they think I could talk to and would just let me work out things with you. I said, fine. So we talked about it. She talked about being afraid of dying. She was afraid of all the stuff she was going to miss. And she says, is that silly? I said, no. Death's quite a powerful thing. But the best way to beat death is to live. You still have your capacity. You're still able to engage. You know joy and emotions. So make sure you demand your grandchildren come in and your children come in and tell them you want to enjoy them as much as you possibly can at this time. So make plans. Have a little party. You're in control of this until you're not. And she goes, can I do that? I said, well, it's down to you. Do you think you can? And so we talked, and I told her some jokes and some funny stories and things. She started to laugh, and she said, I feel so much better that you've come. I feel like I've got this in perspective now. And it was really lovely. I said, well, would you like me to come see you again? This was on a Friday, so I'm not in at the weekend. But if you're still, you have to be careful, by the way, the chaplain. If you're still here on Monday, okay, or with religious people, I understand you're going home soon. Home, like to your address, to your postcode. So I've learned how not to do that anymore. Okay, but I said, but if you're not here in the hospital, then I'll miss seeing you. But I'm not in. But if you're still here, I'll come see you Monday. She said, that'd be great. So I'm getting ready to leave. I said, I've really enjoyed this, but can you just do one last thing for me? And I said, what? She says, who is she over in the corner? Now, it's quite common for people in the hospital to have hallucinations. If you've had a serious infection, there's a strong chance that you probably have had a hallucination of some kind. It's hard to know what your reality is and things. And that's fine. We know that, okay? It's the patient who feels very silly, but we don't treat you like you're silly. No, if you've seen me, let's talk about it. Because also might mean some medication needs adjusting or you need a little something else put in with you. So I said, so what do you mean her? Because I don't see anything. He said, oh, well, there's a lady, kind of almost like a projection, and she's sitting over in the corner. I said, how long has she been there? And she said, oh, she's been here for a couple of days. I said, okay. And so what's she like? Is she doing anything threatening? No, she's sitting there. She's dressed like my grandmother, so it'd be a kind of a Victorian lady. Just like and she's knitting. Okay, is she knitting anything evil or, no, she's just knitting. And she's paying me no attention. She's not watching me. So, okay, are you afraid of her? I said, well, not really, but she's weird. I don't know, what is she? What is she? I said, well, do you really want to know? She says, yeah. I said, she's death. She goes, what do you mean? I said, I believe, which I truly do, you are projecting her into that corner. I can't see her. She's not here. She's not a sinister force. There's nothing to be afraid of. But we don't know enough about our bodies and the electricity that we give off and how it... I said, but whatever, for you, she's there waiting. Because you're thinking about death a lot right now. And I think you're personifying her and putting her in the corner. She goes, oh, that's really interesting. Well, what do I do to get rid of her? I said, tell her to go away. So she's your projection. She started laughing. You're projecting. She says, okay, I think I'll try that. So do you want to do it now while I'm here? And she says, no, it's all right. She's not bothering anybody. It's all right. And so we left and we were laughing, and it was a really lovely encounter. I felt quite good about that. Went home. Came in on Monday. She died 2 hours after I saw her. Quite unexpectedly, to be honest with you. So I had the privilege of being one of the people that had the last really deep conversations with her. And the important thing of that conversation was I took her seriously when she spoke to me. And I didn't once say, but now we're talking about you potentially dying. Would you like to meet Jesus as your Savior? To be honest, I'd be fired for doing that, or at least disciplined, because that's not my job. My job is to deal with these spiritual, emotional, religious needs as they appropriately, as they arise. People want to value someone who listens. Why is this happening? This lady was talking about that. I was called to a man who had serious heart problems. And he said to me, I said, why did you want to see a chaplain? He's Christian, church going. He says, well, our church has some problems. And I knew what church he was talking about. And I just felt I couldn't go there anymore. So I took about 4 or 5 years out. And I started coming back about 3 years ago. And now here I am. And he was, at that point, dying. Without surgery, he was going to die. And he asked me the question. He said, do you think God is doing this to punish me because I stopped going to church for a few years? You know, I said, of course. No, I didn't say that. I said, no. Your heart is like this. Might be genetics. It might be the food you ate. Whatever it is, your body's breaking down. But God isn't punishing you. It's amazing, knowing the church he was in, it's amazing you came back. God honors what you're doing. You're okay. You are okay with God. Am I? Yes, God loves you. Your heart is part of a broken world where we break down and things go wrong. But God loves you. And God's here with you through this. And I'm here with you through this. And lots of people will be praying for you. So just put that to one side, because that's not going to help you get better. And he came through a surgery and stuff, a changed man. And on the other side of it, he was ready to get back engaged with his faith and get back in there and grow and ask his vicar some questions about stuff. And he was thrilled because someone helped remove the burden of somehow God is involved in all of this in a really negative way. And you better watch your step. Instead it was, let God be full of love for you. Let God be someone who honors you. They want someone who has the time and the interest to journey with them. I want to make sense of this. Will you help me make sense of it? I was called to see a man, again, non-religious person. One of the palliative care nurses said, he needs someone to talk to, but he's not religious. And I said, that's fine, but I believe everyone is spiritual. And she said, what do you mean by that? They get touchy when you say that. I said, what I mean is that most people, I've yet to meet an atheist in the hospital. I meet lots of people who believe in something bigger than me, and we all believe in things that are bigger than us. We all take strength from things that are symbolic and important and give us strength and meaning and identity. Because that's all spirituality is. Where do I get my meaning and my identity from? But I don't want to pigeonhole it into one of these religious groups, because I'm not quite sure that's what I believe. So I went to see this guy. I saw him over 9 weeks, a couple times a week, and we'd have really short conversations because he was a man of very few words. Never once introduced religion to the conversation. He told me once they'd stopped his treatment for a while because he was a bit too frail for it. And he's in the condition that he was in. He said, well, why don't they just slip something in my cannula and stop wasting everybody's time? He wasn't asking to be killed. He was just saying, it's not going to do anything. Aren't we just kind of going around in circles? So we talked about that. I told him, well, that's illegal to do that. But two, is that really what you want? And then he was able to say, no, it's not what I want. But if I'm just hanging around here, what's the point? Okay, I could get philosophy course credits for that kind of thing. What's the point, says the professor. Anyone have an answer? What the point is? So we talked about what the point was. It gives him meaning in life. What's special to him? He talked a little bit about it. Part of it was Manchester City. Sorry for those who don't like that. But that gives him meaning. Going to see Manchester City play is a really important thing. So, okay, that's fine. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about your sister. Let's talk about the fact that you never had a family and all that kind of stuff. Once I went to see him, he says, I was practicing dying this morning. I said, yeah, it's before everyone else was up, and I woke up, and so I was holding my breath until I don't know, maybe black out and know that feeling. So did you? And he goes, no, because my body just made me breathe again. I said, what happened to life? So we went through these conversations. I wasn't really sure if I was doing anything for him, okay, but he got my statistics, so that's fine. He got my statistics up. So I came to see him. I think I've been on holiday and came back to see him. And he was sitting on his bed, fully dressed. His condition, which I won't describe because that identifies him a little bit more, had really changed. I said, what's happened with you? And he said, well, they restarted my radiotherapy, which makes us really good stuff. And they've now decided I'm strong enough to go to some facility. Medics laugh at me, but I can't remember the name of it, but it's a place you go to. It's like a rehabilitation place, where they effectively fatten you up for more treatment. They build you up so that you have the weight to cope with chemotherapy. You've got the kind of the strength and emotional strength to deal with. So, but I get to go there because they want to get my chemo started as soon as possible. This is the most excited I've ever seen, and the most words I've ever seen them say in long stretches. I says, oh, that's really amazing. I said, well, I hope this has been helpful for you, me coming to see you, because I've really enjoyed it. And he says, oh, no, I've really, really liked it. It's really good. I said, well, great. I'm calling Bob. So Bob, I hope, I also say to his patients, I hope I don't see you again. Because if I do, it means you've come here. So all the best to you, whatever. Turned to go out, and he goes, excuse me. I said, yeah. Aren't you going to pray for me? I haven't prayed for you yet. Can I just tell you that I'm such a great chaplain, sometimes Christian patients say that to me as well, but there you go. But I hadn't thought he wanted me to pray for him. But it was almost like, well, look, you've come to spend this time with me. Isn't this what you do? Okay. But part of that's a result of just helping to make sense of it. Finally, there's rituals and soothing words. How many of you, if you were in hospital, would want to receive communion if you could? Okay, great. So you'll have a chaplain or a volunteer sculling around, particularly on Sundays. That's when we do the bedside communions. So when I go in, I once had a list of 17 people, which is a lot in an 8-hour shift. And what they want is someone to come and give them the sacrament. It says, give me strength. It connects me with the church I'm not able to go to today. It reminds me of the church I stopped going to ages ago. Okay? I have a joke which only works with Roman Catholics, because people say, I'm a Catholic, but I'm a lapsed Catholic. And I say that I'm an Anglican. So am I. Get it? We're lapsed Catholic. Anyway. So they get it. All right? But actually coming and reading scripture, saying a prayer with them, the Lord's Prayer, which is amazing. There is a phenomenon that you go, I'll tell you a story about this woman in a minute. I was called to see a woman, and she had said, right, I'm done with this. I want my treatment stopped. It's not making me better. It's actually making me feel worse. I'm ready to go. I'm going to go meet my Savior. But she's quite adamant. She's the matriarch of a big family. I walked in the room and I said, oh, I understand you wanted to see me. And all her children, there were 6 of them in the room, got went, oh, we're going to give you coffee. In case they caught religion or something. So I went to see her. I said, so why do you want to see me? And she said, this was going on. I said, would God be angry about this? And I said, no. God doesn't want you to suffer. And you can make decisions for yourself. And if you don't think, and your doctors don't think, that more treatment's going to be good for you, well, you're coming to the end of your life, and well, let's prepare you for that. And she goes, I'm prepared, but I want you to say a prayer for God to take me today. Okay, I said, well, wow. I said, I've got a prayer that's kind of like that, but today, he's got a lot of stuff on today. All right. She goes, well, I just want you to pray that God will take me. He says, okay, well, let's pray. So we prayed. And we said the Lord's Prayer together. And I have a little prayer that I say with them. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but just say a little prayer. And finished. I opened my eyes. Her eyes are still closed. And then she opens one of them. And she starts looking around the room and she goes, I'm still here. Lady, yeah, I didn't say lady, apart from taking a pillow, I'm not really, it's not going to happen right now. But she was soothed by the fact that someone in a dog collar, in a black shirt, who was a representative of the Church of England, came in and prayed to God that he might ease her passing and make her passing come soon. And she took, and so sometimes I've said the Lord's Prayer with people who don't believe or anything. Anybody usually over the age of 50 automatically join in against their own will. But once they're saying it, it just trips off the tongue like it did at school and that sort of thing. And they feel kind of good about having been there and part of it. So sometimes coming and doing religious stuff, very overtly religious stuff, is really, really important to the patients, because that's giving them sustenance. I would like to have communion if I was in hospital. I'm not sure I'd want a chaplain, someone I don't know, to come and pray with me. But I'd really love it if someone from my church came and prayed with me, someone that had some care from someone. But actually, a lot of the people I see don't really have that person, and often we get referrals from church leaders who are, particularly during the pandemic, where I'm not allowed to come in. I'm not on their list of people. They're 2 visitors they're allowed. So when I first started, there was still 6 months of, no, their vicar can't come because they're not one of the 2 listed people. I had to go fight with a ward manager and saying, but you do realize that by not allowing her vicar to come onto the ward, you're denying her human right to expression of religion. And actually that becomes an issue with the trust. Oh, is it? Yes, it is. Don't you count as that? Not in this case, no. So we were able to negotiate some stuff, helping them to understand the importance of certain kinds of visitors and things. And it benefited people. It benefited people to know that I was praying with them as they were dying. I've had a couple of patients who had COVID who asked me to stay with them while they were dying. And it's a great privilege, but they didn't want just someone to be there, and they hardly knew me. They knew, their vicar knew me and stuff, and so I had some credibility from that. But please stay here with me as they died. They didn't die exactly while I was there, but they were in the process of dying, and I had to go and see someone else. But their vicar then came and sat with them as well. Please stay with me, not because you're a nice person, but because you are a Christian person, and I know your prayers will help make this easier. So I've told you all sorts of things. I've been with Roman Catholics, I've been with Muslims, I've been in all sorts of situations where my job, the last one where I did that specific thing, was I was called on call to go to Wythenshawe Hospital at 8 o'clock at night, and I was told that we're withdrawing the person's treatment. They were on what's called an ECMO machine, which basically breathes for you, and they were going to turn that machine off. And so I'm confronted by this man's young family, who are all in tears. I sit down across from his partner, say, hi, I'm Dave, I'm the Church of England chaplain. I've come to just be with you during this time and say some prayers. Do you know what she did? She took my hand in hers. She didn't know me at all. She took my hand in hers like she'd known me her entire life. Why? Because I had the dog collar on and I've come with the God stuff. I'm going to help soothe. I didn't make it any more peaceful for them immediately, but they were glad that I was there to help them go through this journey and to confront their grief and their pain, not being alone, but actually being with someone who understood. I'm going to skip through some of these slides because I've covered them. As I said, everyone's spiritual, not necessarily religious, but everyone had the same human reactions: anxiety, remorse, anger, search for why, and questions about what's next. People will ask you to come and see them to tell them what's going to happen next. I had someone ask me, what's going to happen when I die? What's the actual process going to be like? I once had a couple ask me, they've been asked, which were more distressing questions. Do prepare for this when your time comes to be in this situation. Medical staff will ask you 3 questions, okay? And they're really important questions. One is, where do you want to be cared for while you're in the process of dying? Okay? Do you want to be in the hospital? Do you want to be in a hospice? Do you want to be at home? And talk through what will be possible for that to happen. But what's your wishes so we can try to meet those wishes? Second one sounds grim, and they're very reluctant to ask this because it sounds insensitive, but trust me, it's a really freeing question, which is, where do you want to die? Do you want to die here on this ward with the nursing staff around, with Barbara, who always comes in and brings you an extra cookie from the trolley, or that there's a cleaner on one of the wards. He's amazing. His pastoral care for people is absolutely awesome. Okay? Do you want to go to the hospice? Do you want to be at home? Where do you want your life to come to an end? And we'll see if it's possible. The other question is, do you want to be resuscitated or not? Has anyone in this room been asked that question while in hospital? okay? Do you want to be resuscitated? It's a scary question, isn't it? Because you're kind of saying, right, if this happens, I know my life is over, or it happens. So I was talking to a couple, and I misunderstood what they were saying when we started. They said, we've just been asked this question about do not resuscitate, and we really don't know whether that's God's will, resuscitation. So I said, well, it's a big thing, and sometimes medically it's better if they don't attempt resuscitation, because you may come out of that process worse than you were before they started it. And they go, no. What we mean is it God's will that I be resuscitated? I mean, maybe that's my time to die. We all have our time, don't we? So maybe I'm getting in the way of the will of God. Now this is before lunchtime. I'm really quite hungry, and I'm thinking I don't really have the capacity for a philosophical conversation, but I can't get them and go, can I just see you at 1 o'clock? Back at 1 o'clock, we'll pick this up. Okay? So what they were actually saying to me was, would it be sinful or wrong? And I get asked this question a lot with this, what does God think about that? To actually opt for resuscitation. Would we be denying God? And I said, well, here's the thing that will make your brain bend. And they go, what's that? And I said, well, but what if you don't resuscitate, and that was God's will, because your death's going to come at some other time. So if you weren't resuscitated, you won't have it. And they go, oh, okay, we see what you mean. I said, why don't you just leave it at what you think is the best thing for you, for the patient here, for Bob. All patients will be Bob tonight, even women. Okay? What will be best for Bob? Do you want to be resuscitated, Bob? And he goes, I'm not really sure I do. Okay, well think about it. Don't be pressurized into something straight away. But your gut will tell you what you want. But it's an important question because they need to know what to do with you. They need to know what's your wish. No, I don't want to be resuscitated. When I'm done, I'm done. Okay. And when we recognize you were done, we'll honor that. So don't be afraid of some of those scary questions, because actually they're not that scary. They're actually saying to you, when you can't say for yourself what do you want, someone else will decide for you. Oh, Mom's always wanted to die at home. And you're thinking, I watched my mother die at home. I don't want to put my children through that. No, do not take me home. But it's too late because no one's actually said it. And then your children go through that thing and they go, oh my God, why have we brought mother home? Okay? There are good reasons for asking the questions. And they're not to push you out of hospital, not to work out, can we get rid of you early? It's to make sure that your wishes are respected. These are all whatever. There's a little something here in the spiritual care, as I want to say, and this is a phrase that I've come up with, is that sometimes chaplains will talk about we're to put you back in touch with meaningful things, because you get separated from them in the hospital. But actually, I was reading in a book a couple weeks ago, and this has stayed with me, is actually what we're supposed to help do is create episodes of meaning for you as well. To put you back in touch with stuff that brings that meaning for you right now, rather than just to remind you what has been meaningful for you. And that's why I often talk about people, well, what gives you joy? What are you thankful for right now? What are the things that have made your life worth holding on to and clinging on to? That's a really spiritual question. What is it that's going to help you live while you're alive? And that's a really important thing. So often we're talking to people, what inner strengths do you have? What resources did you not know that you had? How does your spirituality sustain you outside the hospital? So how can it sustain you here? Sometimes in the care that we do as well, in terms of emotional care, is there's this lovely Christian woman who's still in one of our hospitals. Really, her daughters and her together, powerful, powerful women. Really powerful. And this woman, she presents to you as, I'm firm in my mind, I know what I want, whatever. She had a couple falls, and after one of them, she became really meek and really, I've caused so much trouble. And it took 3 of them to get me up, and I just feel really, really bad. I failed everyone in a way. And actually, I didn't do any spiritual, emotional, whatever care. I did coaching. And I said, look, Bob, because everyone's called Bob in the hospital, you know this is just a lapse. You know that all these members of staff will want to help you get up. They love seeing you getting out and mobilizing again and getting on your feet and getting back to who you are. So they'll be disappointed if you just sink back into not trying this. Just go for it. See what happens. Just lick your wounds today, and tomorrow, physios come, just get back up to speed. And she did, and gradually she got her confidence back. And each time I'd see her, it's like, okay, let's have a little coaching session. Let's work out what we're going to do. And her daughters would sometimes turn up and they would, yep, Mom, yep, he's right, let's get him. And then I know she's in another hospital at the moment, and one of my colleagues, one of my bosses actually said, oh, she spoke very highly of you, thank you. But what was lovely is that he said, oh, she's this amazing woman, great. She's adjusted to the shift, she's being able to deal with a new hospital space, and she's going for it. I was really proud of her, because she's holding on to what's really important. And that's often what we're trying to do, is to get people to hold on to what's important, to think about what's important. Things in there like ethical decision making. We listen. If you say something, I'm not going to go, well, that's stupid. Okay? Because that's a horrible way of approaching someone, because I'm trying to make sense of all this stuff that's going on. So it's not stupid. It's what I'm thinking and what I'm doing now. Okay, so that gives you a flavor of that. Religious care, as I said before, I do a communion service at 9:30 in Wythenshawe Chapel. The only people who attend are 6 members of staff from Sodexo. They're all housekeeping staff. They all do cleaning and food prep and all that sort of stuff. And they're all lovely African ladies whose faith is really important to them, and they get special permission to come off the ward and to come to communion. And it's really lovely because I feel like I have a congregation. And they welcome me when I come, and they work with me, and we've had some quite amazing conversations and stuff. So the religious stuff, I do that, take people communion, go see people and pray with them, go and do what people might call last rites, end-of-life prayers, what we tend to call them, when we're not Catholics. So I will go and I will pray with for someone's mother who's unconscious. You'll have to ask me later on because I heard a rude thing today, but it's quite a funny note in the patient's thing. But I won't say it. But we go in and we say the patient's not alert, they're not awake, they're not rousable. Rousable is what means I can wake them up. Which I did wake up one woman because I took her communion. She went, oh my God, I've died! And I said to her, no, if you were dead, I wouldn't be here. Okay, that's fine. So you have to be careful when you come in and they're not expecting you, black shirt, whatever. Is it that bad? Yeah. Medicine is not based on, this is so bad, we're going to send the chaplain in to tell you you're dying. That's not how medicine works, does it? No, it doesn't. Okay. No, I come in because someone has already been told that, or a family. So often I deal with family, and I deal with family members. And often they'll say, would you pray for Mom? We're not religious, but would you pray for Mom? Is that interesting? We're not religious, but Mom, that was really important to her. She would really appreciate you being here. I do believe Mum can hear me, because she's still alive. But actually what they're saying is, we want some of her certainty around this as well. It's going to help us to know that God was part of this. Even though we don't believe all that stuff, we're really, really pleased that you've come. If they haven't fled the room, sometimes they do, but if they haven't fled the room, we're really pleased. And trust me, you say the Lord's Prayer, everybody starts saying it involuntarily, and it's quite lovely. It created a really lovely space. Okay. There's studies that have been done that when people receive all of these types of needs in hospital, they don't necessarily get better, but actually it finds that their treatment goes with fewer complications, and there's more peace around in the process. Okay, however you want to define that. People still die, the same that they die in more peaceful ways, that they don't have so many agitations and things, because it seems to be there's something else that's just helping them to be at peace with what's going on. It's interesting as well that I did have one patient who was completely unconscious. I figured she'd be dead by the time I was done praying. And I started saying the Lord's Prayer, and her lips started moving. I'm absolutely certain she was saying the Lord's Prayer with us. Okay. So I could tell you lots and lots of stories of what seem to be strange things, but they're very human things going on. Dying is a really human thing. How many people in this room have not been ill in your entire life? Ever. Yeah, ever. Okay. How many people have got through your adult life without a major illness so far? One where you might have to be hospitalized or a blue light comes. Okay, great. Well done. Good stuff. Yeah. Don't get cocky though. Okay. You encounter these things. It's part of life. Our bodies break down. I have a colleague who's pretty much the same age as me. And I said to him, now, is this your experience? He said, what? I said, I have this really bad back pain. And it's gone away now. He goes, oh, that's great. But now my right knee hurts. Like they're taking, it's my turn, it's my turn. He goes, yeah, that's really weird. That's life. We break down. We're not immortal. We're not indestructible like we thought we were when we were young. And so we need ways of dealing with that, of recognizing this is the truth of my life, but it doesn't mean all the things that I am have disappeared. That's mostly what a chaplain is there to do, is to say, you are still here. What is important to you and who and what you are is still important. And I'm the person who has time to spend with you to reinforce that with you. I will see a patient sometimes more during the week than their doctor will, particularly a consultant, and particularly if their treatment isn't particularly intensive. So what the doctor's saying, I don't know, I haven't seen one for 3 days, and that's outside of a strike, okay? I don't know really, the nurses don't quite know. Sometimes I know more than they do. I never tell them anything they don't know, which is why I always ask, so you tell me what's happening with you. You know, well, I think I'm getting better, not so quick. Okay, so I'm probably running over